the biggest surprise of this recent June Nintendo Direct was its very first trailer. Mario and Luigi are back. It's almost 10 years since the last new title in the series, Paper Jam, and considering sales dwindled enough to make AlphaDream go out of business, it was a mystery whether we would ever see the series again. But lo and behold, the boys are back in town, although this reappearance has made me wonder, is this a true continuation of the series? Or is this supposed to be a sort of soft reboot, as far as that is possible in the Mario series? There is already a good amount of evidence to either answer scattered throughout this first trailer, so I suggest we just dive in and take a look. The first piece of evidence we need to consider is probably the most obvious one, the developers. After all, whoever is developing this game has made the decision whether this is a reboot or not. In October 2019, AlphaDream filed for bankruptcy. The Mario and Luigi series had been their brainchild, and the only series the company ever worked on. Every other game the company ever produced were one-offs. As such, AlphaDream is an essential part of Mario and Luigi's DNA, explaining why it's such a surprise the series is back despite its creator being gone. Little fun fact, one of AlphaDream's founders, Shigeru Fujioka, was actually present during the Direct, except with a completely different game. He worked as game designer on Fantasian, which was announced to get a Switch port during the same Direct. Wonder what he was thinking during that opener. Anyway, AlphaDream is no longer, but Mario and Luigi has a new home. We just don't know what it is yet. Nintendo has picked up the habit of not revealing the main studio working on their titles as of recent, so we probably won't know until we boot up the game. There are, however, three main suspects. The first is Next Level Games, who have recently had their hands full with Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. Prior to that, their last game was Mario Strikers Battle League, so it's not out of the realm of possibility they have also been working on Brothership since. After all, Luigi's Mansion doesn't look like a port that had a lot of effort poured into it, so it's not impossible. Then again, I personally think the other candidates are more likely, simply because the timeline is a little tight. The next suspect is Ilka, best known for developing Pokemon Home and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. They have expanded recently and picked up a lot of former AlphaDream employees, meaning that original DNA is now working in their office. Then again, Ilka has never worked on a Mario game before, or even directly worked with Nintendo. All their work for the company has been through the Pokemon Company in collaboration with Game Freak. Considering those two recently announced they would be working together even closer, I don't think this is particularly likely either, but it's definitely not unthinkable. Finally, there is what I would consider the prime suspect, Camelot. The company has been responsible for all entries in the Mario Golf and Tennis series, so they definitely know their way around the Mushroom Kingdom. Their last game is from 2021, Mario Golf Super Rush, so the timeline definitely checks out. But the most compelling argument for Camelot's involvement dates all the way back to the early 2000s, when the company released a trilogy of games in the beloved Golden Sun series. They are turn-based RPGs, just like Mario and Luigi, meaning that unlike the other candidates, the studio has a history with both Mario and RPGs. That said, of course it's also a possibility Nintendo is making this in-house, or we might see a new studio entirely, possibly founded by former AlphaDream staff. Either way, most importantly, a new home has been found for the brothers, one that may feel like they want to design their own world and story, without the original characters from AlphaDream's version. As such, we might see recurring characters of the series like Fawful or Starlow miss out. They're not in the trailer at least. While I would be very surprised if Nintendo didn't own the rights to these characters, it's not entirely impossible as the conflict surrounding Super Mario RPG has shown. That game's original characters are owned partly by Nintendo and partly by Square Enix, making them a hassle to bring back. Similarly, we haven't seen many Mario and Luigi characters show up in mainline titles, so there's no concrete evidence to say AlphaDream didn't own those characters, even if it feels unlikely. That said, this initial look at the game does already have a few interesting things to notice in terms of character and enemy appearances. While we have yet to see any significant reappearances beyond the standard Mario cast, there is one shot that shows two enemies that are Mario and Luigi exclusives. Here we see Mario and Luigi flexing on what we used to call a Treevil and a Thorpe. Treevil's only appearance so far hails from Bowser's Inside Story and its remake, while Thorpe originates from Dream Team. So by that logic, it seems whoever is behind the game is not at all afraid to bring back AlphaDream's creations. There is however one important distinction. These enemies are not exactly the same. Thorpes in Dream Team are significantly smaller, orange, and are based on a pumpkin, while his new form is blue and floats. Similarly, this new form of treevil doesn't appear to be an actual tree, more like some sort of scrap metal. In fact, both enemies appear to be metallic variants of the previous incarnation, which is of course nothing new for Mario RPGs. All those titles are heavy on new forms for familiar enemies, and perhaps this is simply an example of that. On the other hand, if you're more skeptical, an argument can definitely also be made in favor of Brothership being a new slate for the series, including redesigns for familiar enemies. Oh, also, just a little bonus shout that I don't think means anything in particular, Brothership will mark the first appearance of Dory in the Mario and Luigi series. I'm a little surprised it took this long, to be honest. So while there are some faces we've seen before, the majority of the trailer consists of new characters. In fact, we've already seen a pretty high number of them, which you could consider as a potential hint that the new developers really want to establish their own continuity for the series. Or you could look at a game like Dream Team and see similar patterns there. Both arguments are fair. That said, it is interesting to consider what roles might already be filled up by new characters this time around, as that can tell us which roles are left to fill. The Starlow Stuffwell role for the Bros Little Helper seems to be covered already with Snoutlet, a sort of flying piggy bank who's in denial about his inspirations. There's also Connie, a member of the new Concordian species, who may be royalty or a leader for them. She at least appears to be their representative to Mario and Luigi, and I suspect her role in the game will be similar to Prince Dreambird from Dream Team, a new character from a brand new species who joins Mario and Luigi as a proper protagonist, as opposed to a supporting character like I picture Snoutlet being. In the villainous camp we have the Extension Corps, a trio of wire-like characters whose designs match the Concordians, who are based on power outlets. Such strong theming is definitely very AlphaDream, if I may say so that might be a tiny hint at the new developers following their footsteps quite closely. Later we see a mysterious character who I would assume is the Extension Corps' leader, but not much can be concluded from her, or is it his, design. There's also Gorumbla, who's clearly a boss, but more than that can't really be said about him. What's also interesting is that both Peach and Bowser appear to have supporting roles, as opposed to being the damsel in distress and villain respectively. This doesn't entirely surprise me, see my video on why Peach may not get kidnapped ever again for more information about that, but it does make this game align with what I would consider the modern Mario universe. It's a new standard that has been building for a while, and has truly come into fruition in the last year or so. And Mario and Luigi Brothership is another game filled to the brim with signs of a new era. A new developer, a new art style, tons of new characters, and there's even more that fits in here. For example, this game will be the third title for Kevin Afghani, the new voice for Mario and Luigi. I guess you could say it's his first real test, seeing as this game has actual lines of dialogue as opposed to just your wahoos and yippies. Another interesting thing to note concerning this train of thought is the title of the game in Japanese. It's very similar to English, Mario and Luigi RPG Brothership. Previous titles in the series were actually numbered. Partners in Time, Bowser's Inside Story and Dream Team are Mario and Luigi RPG 2, 3 and 4, meaning this is not considered to be the 5th entry in the series. It has to be noted Paper Jam is not numbered as 5th either, it's instead referred to as a mix between Paper Mario and Mario and Luigi. As such, it is hard to say how serious this name change is to be taken, and whether AlphaDream was always planning to ditch the numbers, we will never know. But all of this does point towards this entry being a clean slate for the series, a fresh start. But whether it's also a reboot? That's a lot more difficult to say. A very soft reboot, maybe I could see that, but I personally think that while this title specifically will steer clear from AlphaDream's creations, it's absolutely not to be assumed they will never appear again. But that's just my take. With all this evidence laid out, what do you think will be the status of Brothership? Is it a reboot? And if so, to what extent? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribing to the channel to stay updated on all my Mario content coming up. For now, thanks for watching and enjoy the rest of your day.